Hello, people around the world. My name is Ibon Echarri. I'm from Spain and I'm currently studying as an Erasmus student in Kaunas, Lithuania. In this video, I want to talk about something that many international students experience but don't always discuss openly: everyday racism. This phenomenon goes beyond individual situations. It's connected to broader social dynamics like integration, inequality, and discrimination. It's not just a personal issue, it's a public issue. When the same types of experiences happen again and again in different countries and among different people, they reflect deeper patterns in society. By using sociological theories and both objective data and personal insights, I will explain why this issue matters and what we can learn from it. To better understand the everyday racism experienced by international students, I will use three different sociological theories. Each one gives us a unique perspective on what happens when someone moves to another country and suddenly becomes the other. First, critical race theory helps us understand racism not just as a matter of individual prejudice, but as something built into the systems and institutions around us. For students who come from non-European backgrounds or who simply look or sound different, this can mean facing constant reminders that they don't fully belong. Not because of who they are, but because of how society is structured. Things like being left out of group work, stared at on the street, or assumed to be less competent are not random. They are part of a larger pattern. Second, symbolic interactionism focuses on the small everyday interactions that shape how we see the world and how we see ourselves. For international students, simple moments like being ignored by a classmate or treated coldly by a bus driver can slowly build up into a sense of exclusion. These microaggressions might seem minor, but when they happen again and again, they send a clear message: you are not from here, you don't quite belong. Third, structural functionalism looks at how societies maintain stability by defining clear norms, including who belongs and who doesn't. From this perspective, international students might unintentionally disrupt those norms. Their presence challenges familiar ideas about national identity or cultural unity. In more homogeneous societies, this can create discomfort, and instead of being welcomed, students might be quietly seen as outsiders even when they do everything right. By combining these three approaches, we get a deeper understanding of why studying abroad, while exciting and enriching, can also carry a hidden emotional cost: the feeling of not truly being accepted. According to the Eurobarometer survey from 2023, nearly 45% of people in Eastern Europe believe that immigrants do not integrate well into society. Meanwhile, only 33% of respondents in Lithuania say that they feel very comfortable living near someone of a different ethnic background. These numbers reveal the broader social climate that international students step into when they arrive. A study by the OECD also shows the students of color of those from non-European countries often report higher levels of discrimination, especially in informal settings like housing, public transport, and daily social interactions. These statistics show that the problem is not random, it is systematic. Now, before we hear the testimonies, I want to talk briefly about something we often leave out of academic discussions: the emotional experience of being an outsider. Imagine arriving into a new country, full of hope and curiosity, but slowly, things begin to change. You walk into a room and the conversations stop. You raise your hand in class and get ignored. You laugh differently, dress differently, speak differently, and suddenly that difference becomes a barrier. This isn't just about racism in the traditional sense, it's about belonging, or the lack of it. It's about being reminded again and again that you are a guest, not part of the family. Emotions like isolation, confusion, and frustration shape how students experience their time abroad, not because they have done something wrong, but because the environment around them doesn't always know how to include them.
So I once entered a pharmacy here in Kaunas, and the pharmacist was very rude to us from the beginning because we were looking and comparing the prices of what we wanted. And from the beginning, she was yelling at us and telling us to go pay and go pay and go pay. And she didn't have any reason to suspect from us that we were going to steal anything, and it was just because we were foreigners.
One of my experiences is that one day I was lost in the city in Kaunas, and I looked for help in a policeman. And when I started talking English, he looked like angry, and he responded me in an aggressive tone, and he finally didn't help me.
Last week I went to the Kaunas hospital and they treat me badly because I'm Spanish.
When I'm standing still in the supermarket, just looking for something, people right behind me bump into me and they didn't say any word. And it's like, what are you doing?
Bus driver thought that because I was Spanish, I wouldn't pay the bus. So he screamed at me in front of everyone, and I was embarrassed when I actually did pay.
One time we went to a restaurant, and when we arrived, we left our coats on the coat row, and then the people who were in the table next to us took their coats and left them in their table.
One night, I went to a nightclub, and when the nightclub bouncer saw that I was a Spanish girl, they didn't let me in. And they told me that they wouldn't speak English with me, and if I didn't understand their language, it's my problem.
Something that really surprised me was the fact that people working in the supermarket made fun of me just because I didn't know how to speak Lithuanian.
One day I was in Lithuania in the gym, and one day I asked a guy to change the machine, and he said no. And 5 minutes later, a Lithuanian guy goes to that machine, ask him to change the machine, and he said yes.
The other day I was on the bus with my friends speaking in Spanish in a normal tone, and suddenly a man shouted at us, told us to stop talking, and also said something offensive about Spaniards, and we didn't know why.
So one thing that happens usually to us is, for example, when we are in the supermarket and people working there listen to us speaking in our language, they are all the time like looking at us in a rude way. Or, for example, then when we're going to pay our items, they don't even look at us or say good morning or thank you or anything like that, and that's very rude.
An example of a situation that I can feel discriminated here in Lithuanian is in my class. Usually my teacher speaks in English, but if one student talks with her in Lithuanian, they continue the conversation in this language, and I ask if her can switch to English because I don't understand. They lot of me or ignore.
The stories you have just heard, and maybe even experienced yourself, are not isolated events. They are signs of a system that doesn't always know how to make space for difference. But recognizing the problem is only the first step. The real question is, what can we do about it? As universities, we can provide intercultural training for both staff and students, create mentorship programs that connect local and international students, ensure that classrooms are truly inclusive, where every voice matters. As individuals, we can choose curiosity over judgment, pay attention when someone is left out, and act. Reflect on our own biases, because we all have them. As international students, we can share our stories, even if it feels uncomfortable. Support each other, speak up, even if our accent shakes, because our presence matters. Sociological theories helps us understand the why, but it's empathy and action that helps us create change. The feeling of being an outsider should never be the price of education abroad. We can, and we must, build communities where difference is not only accepted, but celebrated.